It's fall, and that means it's time to get your home ready for the winter months. And there are a few things that you can do right now to start saving some money on energy costs. So we brought in Realtor Chris Schilling to talk about the ways that you can be prepared. We got a lot to cover. We got 7 tips for folks. So let's start with number 1.
Yeah, so the 7 things that you want to start with, you want to get those gutters cleaned. So it's not just scooping out all the leaves, but you want to make sure that the downspouts are all clear of leaves and debris. So the easiest way is you scoop it out and you put it in a trash bag. But then you also take a water hose and put it into your gutter to make sure that it's flowing properly, because if it gathers and pools, it'll actually start to rot the wood that's behind it and cause a lot more damage. So you want to make sure that you clean that out and use a snake if you need to in order to clean out the downspouts.
It also beautifies your, the surrounding area. So hey, that's kind of like a win-win right there.
You bet.
Talk to us about number 2, which is inspecting and those loose doors, those windows, and you really should do this every time the season changes.
You bet. So one of the things that you should do annually is check all the windows and check all the doors to make sure that all of those are properly sealed. They have a thin plastic seal that goes around those doors and windows, and you use caulk as well. It's one of those things that you could do it yourself, but just make sure that if you're seeing light outside, odds are your heat or your air conditioning is going to escape, and it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Chris, unfortunately, when the temps continue to fall, we respond to a lot of house fires as a result of, gas leaks.
Yeah. So gas, we don't use our heaters very often. Use them probably 2-3 times a year, depending on how cold it gets. But you want to make sure that those gas, particularly for your heaters, are working nominally. So you really, on this one, you need to call a professional, get them to go up there and check that heater, both your hot water heater as well as just your air conditioning unit, to make sure that those things are not leaking, because they do. I mean, they tend to erode over time, and so you want to make sure that that's not going to cause a gas leak in the house. Could be very dangerous.
Do you want to check the pipes as well?
Yeah, so you want to check all of your plumbing and make sure all of that's insulated. Again, we don't think about it getting really cold in our part of the world, but those couple of days that it does, because we're not used to it, you may have exposed pipes on the outside of the house that could get cold or frozen. So the time to check that stuff is now, while it's still warm outside and it's easy to do.
And it's comfortable.
And it's comfortable, you bet.
Speaking of which, you want to make sure you can always cut off the water at any time, should anything bad happen.
Yeah, so the worst thing to happen is that if you have a really bad water leak in the house, now you're running around trying to figure out how to cut off that water. The time to figure that out is before you have a problem. So find out where that water cut off is. Odds are it's out at the end of the street where the water meter is, and it requires a key, which is a long pole with 2 forks on it. So if you don't have one, you can go over to one of your Home Depot stores and pick one of those up pretty cheap. But you really need to know that before you have a problem.
Okay, Chris, when it also gets kind of cold, we see, unfortunately, the wildlife also seeks refuge and seeks the warmth and the heat, the kitty cats, the birds.
Yeah, so when it gets colder, those guys are looking for places to nest and to huddle down. In fact, it was funny, it's 2-3 o'clock in the middle of the day, and my wife, freaks out. We think there's an invader in the house, and what it is it's squirrels, so I'm about to kill some squirrels in the house.
Cold too?
So they're crawling up in the house, making a lot of racket. So you really want to make sure that all of those entries to the house and all those rodent traps and all of those screens are secure, so that you don't get any guests this season.
I might add, trim the trees too, because they use those trees as a springboard sometimes to jump on the roof or to jump onto the house.
And with the wind, as it's knocking that stuff back and forth, it can damage your shingles. Also, that's the way that termites get into houses. We have 2 kinds of houses in Texas, ones that have termites and ones that are going to get them. So trimming those trees and doing that now while it's still kind of nice outside is a great idea.
I think we talked about all 7.
You bet.
Thanks, Chris.